No one tells you this part. They tell you growth feels empowering. They tell you growth feels exciting. They tell you growth feels like becoming more. But they don't tell you that growth can feel like grief. Like something is slipping through your fingers. Like you're leaving pieces of yourself behind. Like you're losing a version of your life that once made sense. And that's confusing, because growth is supposed to be good. So why does it hurt? Why does becoming better sometimes feel like losing something important? Why does moving forward feel like saying goodbye? Today, we're going to talk about the part of growth most people never explain. Why growth feels like loss, and why that pain is not a sign that you're doing something wrong, but proof that something inside you is changing. Because real growth doesn't just add, it subtracts, and subtraction is painful. When people think about growth, they imagine addition, more confidence, more discipline, more clarity, more success. But real growth begins with release. You don't grow by stacking new layers on top of the old ones. You grow by shedding what no longer fits. Old habits, old beliefs, old coping mechanisms, old versions of yourself that once protected you. And letting go of anything familiar, even something unhealthy, creates a sense of loss. Because familiarity feels safe, even when it limits you. Your old self wasn't useless. That version of you knew how to survive your past. It learned how to cope. It learned how to adapt. It learned how to endure. So when growth asks you to change, your nervous system feels threatened. It interprets growth as danger, not progress. Because safety isn't about happiness. Safety is about predictability. And when you grow, predictability disappears. So even when you're moving toward a better life, your body reacts as if you're losing protection. That's why growth feels like loss. You're not losing yourself. You're losing an old survival strategy. One of the most painful parts of growth is identity change. When you grow, you don't just change what you do. You change who you believe you are. And identity is emotional. It's built from memories, stories, and repetition. I'm the person who struggles. I'm the person who stays quiet. I'm the person who avoids risk. I'm the person who plays small. When growth challenges these identities, it creates grief, because even limiting identities feel familiar. And letting go of familiarity feels like losing a part of yourself. But identity loss is not death, it's transformation. There is a stage of growth no one warns you about. The in-between, where the old self no longer fits, but the new self isn't fully formed yet. This space feels empty, uncertain, lonely. You don't recognize yourself the way you used to, but you haven't fully stepped into who you're becoming. That gap feels like loss because there is no solid ground yet. But that space is not failure, it's incubation. Every meaningful transformation requires a period of discomfort where identity reorganizes. Another reason growth feels like loss is because it affects connection. When you grow, not everyone grows with you. Some people relate to your old self. Some people feel comfortable with your old limits. Some people benefit from the version of you that didn't set boundaries. As you change, relationships may shift. Conversations may feel different. You may feel misunderstood, and that hurts. Because humans are wired for belonging, but growth sometimes requires temporary isolation. Not because you're better than others, but because alignment changes connection, and that change can feel like loss, even when it's necessary. Growth doesn't just close doors. It closes possibilities. When you commit to growth, you let go of certain versions of your future. Paths you could have taken, lives you could have lived, identities you could have stayed in. Even if those lives wouldn't have fulfilled you, their disappearance still creates grief. Because the human mind mourns what could have been, even when it chooses what should be. Growth feels like loss because it brings clarity, and clarity eliminates illusions. Your brain is designed for efficiency, not fulfillment. It wants patterns, shortcuts, repetition. Growth requires effort, awareness, discomfort. So when you grow, your brain sends resistance signals. Doubt, fear, nostalgia, second guessing. It tries to pull you back to what's familiar. Not because growth is wrong, but because change consumes energy. That resistance feels like sadness, anxiety, or emptiness, and many people mistake that feeling as a sign they should stop. But it's a sign they're rewiring. One of the most confusing emotions during growth is missing what hurt you. Missing old habits, old patterns, old versions of yourself. That doesn't mean you were wrong to change. It means your nervous system hasn't fully recalibrated yet. Healing doesn't erase memory, it changes relationship. And during that transition, longing can appear. That longing is not a signal to go back. It's a signal that your system is adjusting. When you grow, distractions fall away, and what remains is you, your thoughts, your emotions, your unresolved feelings. Growth removes numbing mechanisms, and that can feel overwhelming because you're no longer avoiding yourself. Growth feels like loss because it removes escape routes. But what replaces them is awareness. And awareness is the beginning of freedom. Most people try to avoid pain. But pain is not the opposite of growth. Avoidance is. Growth pain is purposeful. It stretches capacity. It builds resilience. It strengthens identity. The pain of growth is not punishment, it's expansion. Just like muscles ache when they grow stronger, your identity aches when it expands. Many people quit growth because they think they're going backward. They feel tired, emotionally raw, uncertain. That shedding feels like weakness before it feels like strength. You are not losing progress. You are losing weight, emotional weight, identity weight, expectation weight. And shedding always feels like loss before it feels like relief. Motivation disappears when growth hurts. Consistency carries you through. You don't need to feel confident every day. You need to show up. Growth is not sustained by emotion. It's sustained by commitment. Daily upgrades, small alignment, intentional repetition. This is how identity stabilizes. Movies show growth as a breakthrough moment. Real growth is quiet. It happens in ordinary days, in boring decisions, in unseen discipline. That quietness can feel anticlimactic, but it's also what makes growth permanent. You don't notice growth while it's happening. You notice it when you realize you no longer react the way you used to. You don't owe your past eternal loyalty. You don't owe your old identity permanence. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to choose alignment over history. Growth feels like loss because it requires honesty, and honesty reshapes identity. On the other side of this discomfort is peace. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become clearer. You stop fighting yourself. You stop pretending. You stop living out of alignment. That peace is earned, and it's worth the discomfort. If growth feels heavy right now, you are not falling apart. You are reorganizing. Your values are shifting. Your standards are rising. Your identity is upgrading. And upgrades are always uncomfortable before they stabilize. Growth is not one decision. It's daily. Daily awareness, daily discipline, daily honesty, daily upgrades. You don't need to rush. You need to remain consistent. Growth feels like loss because something real is ending. But what's ending is not your value. What's ending is misalignment. And every ending that brings you closer to yourself is not loss. It's liberation. If this message resonated, it means you're not chasing surface-level motivation. You're ready for real growth. On this channel, we don't escape discomfort. We understand it. We upgrade through it. We grow daily, not perfectly, but intentionally. Subscribe to Daily Upgrade Motivation and commit to becoming aligned, disciplined, and self-aware, one day at a time. Because growth isn't always comfortable, but it's always worth it.